Greetings, Earth enthusiasts. If you ever wondered about the incredible perspectives our planet has to offer from high above, you're in the right place. I am Dr. Clive Coetzee, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this captivating journey into the world of remote sensing. Welcome. And please remember to like, subscribe to, and share this video. Thank you. In our last tutorial, we started to explore the wonderful world of the nighttime light data set. In particular, we started working on the two main data sets, and we made the point that the two data sets are not necessarily compatible with one another. So today, in this video, we're going to continue with the nighttime lights data set, and we're going to see what else we can do in terms of exploring the two data sets. So remember, we open up our Earth engine, then we open the code editor. Remember, I have saved the two sets of scripts, so I want to open those scripts so that we can continue with the scripts. And we go to scripts, and we basically just scroll down and until we find our saved scripts, and there the two are. So I'm going to open the two scripts as separate scripts initially. So let's open the DMSP script, and we're also going to open the VIIRS script. So if I go down, let's just find it, and there it sets the VIIRS scripts. So now I've got two editors running. The one that focuses on the VIIRS data set, which is this one here, produced by NOAA. And then the second script is the DMSP script, also developed by NOAA. Now, I don't want to run them as two scripts. That seems a bit counterproductive, counterintuitive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply take remember the map, the region of interest and the map center for both scripts are identical, are the same. The clip tool, obviously, for both sets are also identical. So I'm going to take from the image collection, and I'm simply going to just copy, and I'm going to paste it into my VIIRS script. So now I've got one script, and I'm just going to close this. I'm not going to use it. So now simply I've got one script that contains both data sets. So I'm going to rearrange the script a little bit so that it fits together the different parts of it. So I'm going to take the image collection, and I'm going to paste it in before. So now I've got the two image collections going together. And then in terms of the second set of variables where I actually create the images, I'm going to now also just add those two scripts together. So I'm going to go back here and paste it in there. Now what we need to understand here is that we have now two variables that have the same names, but they are from different data sets. So that's going to create a problem for us. So what we have to do is we have to rename these two variables. So let's say the first data set is called just keep it low little DMSP, and therefore we have to change it here to let's delete that because I've already got that included below, and let's rename this one the VIIRS. Okay, so now we know that we're going to create a variable called DMSP, which referred to the DMSP satellite for 2013, for the year of 2013. Remember, the DMSP is annual. And now we're going to create a second variable or image, which is called VIIRS, and that is from the VIIRS data set, and that's for the 5th month of 2013. So we've created those two variables or two images. Now we're going to have to select our bands in both of those two data sets. Remember, I'm going to have to change this now. So remember, the average VIIRS data set is from the DMSP. Let's just confirm. DMSP is the VIIRS, yeah. The VIIRS is from the DMSP. So let's call it that. That called the variable DMSP. I'm just going to use NT for nighttime lights. And then this one will be then the VIIRS. And I'm going to call this the VIIRS nighttime light. So here in this pieces of code, I select the bands. Now they have different visual parameters. We can delete this piece of code now because we've copied and pasted. So they have different parameters, visualization parameters, and I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to tinker around that. Obviously, there's no color palettes. We can do that a bit later. But yeah, so I'm going to leave that, and there's my two adding the layers, my codes for adding those images into my layers. I'm going to delete this, and remember we have the DMSMP is the variable, the name of that image that we've created from the DMSMP band. So let's replace it there. And then the VIIRS nightlight I've created from the VIIRS dataset. So I'm going to copy and paste it in there. Just make sure that the comma is right. And I'm going to just call that DMSP nighttime lights. And I'm going to call this variable VIIRS nighttime lights. Remember, try to keep or try to not have any spaces in the names, etc. So let's have a look and see. I think I'm happy with that. Let's run it. We shall soon find out whether I have any errors in the console window. So far, there's no errors indicated. The images seem to be loading properly, so that seems fine. It seems like it works. So now you should be able to visually compare the two images much more efficient or effective. Remember, they are both for 2013. So remember, in the previous tutorial, we tried to illustrate the main differences between the two data sets, given that there is some overlay between these two data sets and a reason. So if I'm going to zoom in a little bit, I'm just going to make that smaller, redraw this a little bit. There's the images coming up. Remember, I have created a code here to display, to add the region of interest, which I've uploaded as a shapefile, and I've centered my images around my region of interest. I've clipped the images to my region of interest. I've specified the dates of my images. I've selected my bands. I've given them some visualization parameters, and now I'm displaying it. So let's see if when I open the DMSNP and I open the VIIRS, and you can clearly see the difference between the two. And that is simply, as I mentioned earlier, because the DMSP satellite had a ceiling, a maximum ceiling of 63. So you have that a large number of variables being condensed in 63, and also in the technology that they use in the sensors and DMSP, they can't correct for the blooming effect of lights, where in the VIIRS, there's no upper ceiling and they've corrected for the blooming effect. And that's why you don't get that significant intensity of lights in the VIIRS as you would get in the DMSP. If we just again zoom in, let's say a specific area, and just to show again the difference between the two, let's first just display the DMSP image, which is the early version of the night light. And then if we overlay the VIIRS, which is the modified version, you can again clearly see the differences and why it's not just as straightforward to align or to merge the two data sets. So there I've created or I've basically created one script that now includes both data sets. It makes it, as I said, much easier to work than, let's say, if we just go back, let's quickly just go to the inspector to show the differences between the two sets of data set images just in terms of numbers. So if I press on the inspector, let's click on this particular pixel or location, you'll see that from in the DMSP, that pixel has a nightlight intensity value of 61, and whereas in the VIIRS, it has a nightlight intensity of 54. So you can see the difference. If I take any other location, let's for example take that specific location. In the VIIRS, in the DMSNP, if you see the difference, it's got a value of 40, and in the VIIRS, it's got a value of 13. And that is the blooming effect, clearly illustrated right there. So coming back to the main point is that you simply can't just compare these two or use these two data sets in the same sentence or in the same time series. Now we've got our two data sets, two sets of data images. We've now incorporated them into one script. Remember, now let's remember to save it. So I'm just going to say, it's our nighttime light tutorial 9. I'm not going to specify DMSP or VIIRS because they both included in one data set. If I zoom out on the layer, what is interesting now is that this is obviously not well presented and beautiful presented because there's no the visualization parameters are not very nice. It's simply just a black and white. So what we want to do is to play around with our visual parameters so that we create a little bit of color in these two images, which obviously visually is much more appealing and much better. So there's a couple of ways we can do that. One is that we can add the palettes into our parameters within this code, which we will do, or you can simply use the layers window itself. You'll see there's a little nut sign in each of these two layers, and if we press on the layer itself, it opens a window. Now in this window, we can play around with the visualization parameters. Okay. So in our case, we only work with a single band image. If we were to use a Landsat or Sentinel or multiple band images, we'll use the 3-band option. But in our case, our images only have one band, so we only work with a one band. And there is the name of the band, etc. Now, the range is as we specified, 3 to 60, you can see that. And there's various different options that we can play around with. But what I want to go is to the palette, and we can create different palettes. So let's start with the lowest, the brightest value would be red. Sorry, it would be red, and we press OK. Let's delete it first. I want to start from the bottom. So where there's very little light, we're gonna give it an almost no color, and then we gradually increase the intensity of the reds as the intensity of the nighttime lights increases. So let's create then the highest. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. So let's say apply. It should then rerun it, and it should display that palette. And you can see it's not really very nicely, but it does already give you the high intensity areas in red. So if I want to, let's say, make that a black color, and let's say apply now and see, yeah, now it's starting to look a little bit better. And you can play around with it. Now we can import the palette. And let's say we say import, and there is the palette. Let's delete. I've double clicked it. We've included the palette now, and so what we can do is we can basically just delete it from, or copy it from there and paste it into our code here if we so wish to. So what we can do is to just copy and paste it from there, and we basically just gonna I widen, and we're just simply gonna include it there, and then we can delete it from the top here. Okay, so but we can play around with the palettes to a large degree. We can create different colors. So let's say that green, let's say I want to make that orange color is, I want to make um, a purple rather. And let's say apply. So you can play around with the colors. So let's basically do the same. It doesn't really change it. So let's play around with the stretching. So let's choose the stretch alpha. Wait till apply and see what happens now. And you can see if we play around with the colors and the visualization parameters. Remember, I can import all these visualization parameters. So let's see what it looks like if we stretch it twice. Let's see what happens there. Yeah, okay, let's say 90% stretch. Let's see what the outcome is there. And let's say it's 100%. Let's see what the outcome is there. Let's see. Yeah, this one looks a little bit less. I'm going to stick with this options. So let's close it and do the same for the DMSNP. Remember, single band, I'm going to leave it. And I'm going to go, remember we started with the black. Then we had, was it the pink? Kind of pinkish, I think. Let's go with there. Let's go there and like it there. And we're gonna stretch it 100. And let's say apply. And I'm just gonna and you can see the difference. Okay, so let's close it. So they roughly have the same visualization parameters, and you can see the difference in the two images just by adding different colors to it. And remember, as I said, we can import, if we go back there, just to see whether they have roughly the same color scheme. Sure looks like it's roughly, but except that's a purplish color. So let's quickly go, quickly there and change that. Yeah, it's a purplish color. Something to that effect. Let's apply. And we can again import it into our code. There it sits, and I said we can now copy and paste this palette. We can copy and paste it into um, into the code itself. And I'm just going to move it there. And we're going to move this one there. The maximum there. Remember, we're going to make that a comma, and I'm just going to move this one a little bit there so that it is now pretty much exactly the same. I'm going to take that color scheme of our last one, and I'm going to paste it in there so that the two color schemes are now identical. In fact, we can only we can delete one of the color visualization parameters and just use them um, as similar to the codes. Use them as one. But anyway, we can play around there. So we're gonna run it, and there is the two images should now be updated with the color schemes as we generated from using the options that's provided in the Earth Engine in the code editor. And you'll see there's our images nicely displayed in color. So if we can now compare again, if we zoom into a specific area, we can again compare the two satellite images with one another. And again, from a color perspective, you can again see the differences. And there is the DMSP. You can see the main locations of high intensity or high nightlight intensity. The more the red the location, the higher the nightlight intensity. And as you move further outwards from those locations, the nightlight intensity decreases. And it's exactly the same for the VIIRS as well, except obviously the blooming effects is not that visible. But yeah, so now what we've done is we've created a single script where we combined the two data sets, the scripts for the two data sets. I'm just going to delete that again. Don't want to have too many stuff on the script. Let's bring it down so we can see the script in full. So there is the script in full. So I've added my region of interest and I've centered my map around this. I've displayed that region of interest and I centered my map around this. And then I'm clipping my data sets or my images for my region of interest using this image.clip function. And I've created two images, or I've created two variables for each data set by using the filter.date. So it's for those specific dates. And I've created two additional, and I've centered it around those specific bands. And I've created visualization parameters for each of those images, and I have displayed them. Remember to save. Now, what else can we do? We can now create a number of images for each data set to actually compare images over time. Call it a time series of images for any specific location in my region of interest to see what has happened to its night light intensity over a number of years. And obviously we can also export these images by using the export function. And those are items that we're going to look at in the next video. I trust you enjoyed this. Remember to like and subscribe and to share the video. And I look forward to having you on board in our next video in our journey of remote sensing.